It is Tuesday, August 1st. Happy August to you, back to school month, and also known as one of the hottest months in the South. I am still up in Boston, where the temperature right now is a kind of a breezy 87 degrees Fahrenheit, and not an all bad day, about mostly sunny, tiny bit of clouds outside. Not a bad day all in all. In the spirit of funny travel stories, I'm reminded of another story that happened last year. This happened to be on my birthday. I spent a couple days in Canada, specifically in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. Each province has a capital, but that Ottawa is the capital of all of Canada. Up there with a couple meetings with the Canadian government, and was flying back on my actual birthday, which was, I believe, a Thursday last year. Get to the airport, plenty of time for my flight. And in case you don't know, when you fly internationally and you fly from Canada back to the US, you clear customs and immigration in Canada. Once you get your boarding pass, you go through the line, you do your metal detector, all that kind of good stuff, then you go through immigration. At that point, after you pass through immigration, they scan your passport, ask you why you were here, do you have anything to declare, yeah. After you pass through that, although you're in Canada, you've passed into the US with your immigration status. Okay, go downstairs. It's a foggy, rainy morning, and didn't give a whole lot of thought to it because it'd been kind of nasty when I flew in the day before. The gate personnel announced that our flight was delayed. No big surprise there, but it was early. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. The fog was so thick that if you looked out the large glass windows onto the tarmac area, you know the long jetway that goes out and connects to the plane? You couldn't see the end of that when it was out there. You had no idea if a plane was even there or not. It was that foggy, very low ceilings, just a bad day. Flash forward a couple of hours of delay. They finally came out and said, well, we have a plane on the ground, supposedly, but we can't take off. I don't think there's a plane out there, and we are going to start taking you up to rebook you. At this point, 5 flights have already been canceled, and there's 5 flights full of people down there in this holding area in the terminal to try to fly back to the US. And the flights back were going to Philadelphia, DC, Chicago, that kind of thing, all US destinations. The lady came out and said, well, we're gonna have to rebook you all, so we're gonna take you down this hallway back through Canadian immigration. You're not gonna pass through immigration because you're not re-entering the country. You're gonna come through the immigration area, go back upstairs, get rebooked, come back through, you'll go back to the metal detector, but you're not gonna go back through immigration and customs, and you're gonna end up back down here on your newly booked flight. Fair. The flight options were pretty bad. I checked on flight status from both Montreal and Toronto to find that both of them were socked in with this bad weather, and they're having heavy delays. Both cities are very attainable by a 2 to 3 hour train ride, which I've done in the past. So there's no go. I ended up talking to a bunch of guys in line, downstairs and upstairs as well. And there's one guy in particular who we just kind of kept talking about the situation and blah, we want to get home, we'll get home. And he was going to DC and I was going back to Dallas. We finally just said, you know what, we're gonna be stuck here for at least 5 or 6 hours, 7 or 8 hours. That's enough time to get us out of Canada, heading down towards DC, where this other guy's taking off from. Maybe I can grab a flight from Harrisburg, or I can grab a flight from Philadelphia, Baltimore, or something tonight to get home, at least get home on my birthday. So we said, hell of it, we're in a car. So we rented a car, and it was a minivan. And I told the guy who's on a per diem, and I really wasn't on per diem necessarily, the guy's like, well, I can't afford anything. I'm like, just don't worry about it, just buy lunch or buy us some road snacks and one tank of fuel, and I'll buy everything else, the car, the final tank of fuel, all that fee. Cool. And I'll earmark this by saying he did not look terribly threatening, and because I'm here today means I wasn't killed. So I don't mean to give away the ending, but nothing bad happened to me. Anyway, we hop in this car and we start going, and the weather is terrible. We're driving 12, 15, 18 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour in certain spots. A little while, we kind of lift up a little bit, drive 30, 35 miles an hour, but then back down again. And so as we're heading towards the Canadian border. And we're just going and going and going. It's just slow. We see a sign that says US border 10 or 15 miles ahead. And we're like, okay, cool. Well, now I know where we are, and we can benchmark that time. As soon as we get across the border, I'm gonna start searching flights out of these different cities to find out what my best opportunity is to get home. So no big deal. Then a thought occurred to me, and that is this. When we left customs, when we left the flight area to go back upstairs to rebook our tickets, we never rebooked our ticket. And we never went back downstairs into the US holding area, which means that we have cleared customs in Canada, but we're still in Canada. And by that I mean illegally, potentially, still in Canada. So I looked over at the guy I'm driving with. I said, you have a passport, right? He said, yeah, that's cool. I said, something just kind of occurred to me. We're not here legally right now. He goes, what do you mean? I explained what I wanted to explain to you. And he's like, oh, geez, well, what are we going to do? I'm like, oh, at this point, what are we going to do? There's nothing else we can do. So I was being kind of cool about it. Canadian border, 5 miles. I was like, oh my God. Now it's becoming real. Heart started going a little bit. Started getting kind of a little bit nervous. And I had nothing to be nervous about. I've done nothing wrong. But I'm in the country illegally. The next few miles seem like that long, weird shot you see in movies where it's just, I can get there, but I can't get there, and I'm closer, but I'm further, and it just took forever to get there. We go over this huge bridge, come down, and there is the border crossing. I'm like, well, we're in a minivan. We'll just run right through. We're Americans. We're Americans. The practical side of me said, well, that's a really great way to get shot and killed. It is my birthday. I wouldn't want to die at my birthday. That would be a really horrible way to go. Get to the crossing. There's no traffic there. There's car traffic and there's truck traffic. And we're the only car in the car lane. And this guy's like, passports. And I handed over my passport, and the guy I'm driving with his passport. And he's okay. What were you guys doing in Canada? And he's like, well, I was at a conference for, Chinese economic something or another. And he goes, okay, so you guys both of this Chinese something? I'm like, no, I was here for another meeting and with the Canadian government. The guy goes, what? I said, yeah, I was here for a different meeting. So you guys weren't traveling together? I said, well, no, we're not traveling together. We are now, but we weren't on this trip together. And he goes, so how did two guys end up in a minivan at the Canadian crossing from two different events, not even on the same flight, not even living in the same state or same time zone? How did this happen? I'm like, well, the short condensed story is, and I told him what happened. I said, we just got fed up of waiting. It was going to be a 5-6 hour wait, 7 hour wait, and we could be driven 2/3 of the way to another place by then, or halfway. And we just decided to bolt. We're not sure what was going to happen. And the guy looked at us, looked at our passports, went over to his machine, typed this stuff in. This is what I'm thinking. Oh my God! Now he's going onto the net, the Canadian network. He's going to dial in the Canadian spies. They're going to come flying into Blackhawks and come take us away for being in the country illegally. So I'm starting to kind of get a little bit nervous. Clack, 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 clack. The guy turns around his seat, looks over, and he goes, Mr. Davis? I said, yes, because that's my name. He goes, your passport? And he goes, Mr., and I forgot the guy's name, sorry. Mr. Other guy? Yes, here's your passport. You gotta drive safely. Oh, thank you, sweet baby Jesus. So we start driving down the road again. And we're driving, and it's getting around 3 o'clock-ish. And we stop at Cracker Barrel to have a quick bite. I think we're there for like 27 or 30 minutes, have a quick bite, a little bit of coffee, and I start looking for flights. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. We're about 4 hours from Philadelphia, and there's a flight at 8 o'clock, which gives me a 1-ish hour buffer to make this flight. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna book the flight, but I'll put it in my phone, and I'll get about an hour down the road, and because there's plenty of seats on it. And if we get starting getting that way, and if I think I can make the flight, we'll go ahead and book it. I'll have this guy drop me off. When we rented the car, or rented the van, the minivan, I had him sign as an alternate driver. That way, twofold. One, I had his information, his driver's license, and all that kind of stuff I took a picture of it on the contract. Secondly, in case I got a flight, he could take the car with the insurance on it, so nothing would happen, and take the car, return it to Reagan or Dulles, where he was flying out of, and he could return the car, and he's fine. He got where he wanted to go. I got where I wanted to go. Well, just as I'm about to book the trip, the heavens closed in, and the rains came down, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained. We went from 65 to 55 to 35 to 20 miles an hour, like a school zone for hours. It was horrible. There was no way to make the flight. So we're driving. We end up stopping at like a Flying J or some pilot truck stop or whatever. And matter of fact, right here, I'll show you a map of my trip on that day. And so you're not thinking I'm BSing, but it shows our drive starting in Ottawa and going all the way down to DC. There is no flights out of Harrisburg, no flights out of Philadelphia, no flight out of Baltimore, and no flight that evening out of Reagan or Dulles. So I was stuck going. So we made the rest of the drive. We stopped at this Pilot or Flying J or whatever it was, and he ends up buying me cupcakes because it's my birthday. And I had a birthday in a car in the middle of somewhere with a strange dude who just got back from a Chinese meeting. He was not Chinese, but he was at a meeting, Chinese economic meeting for China. And that's how I spent my 51st birthday. I did make it into DC. Now, here's where it kind of got like, Get to DC, and the guys, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go drop the car off, and we'll take the van from the car lot, we'll take the bus from the car lot to the terminal, and from the terminal, I can get to my hotel, which I booked my hotel. They have a shuttle. I can get to my hotel for try to get some hours of sleep, and you can get to your car, which you parked in the lot, to take the shuttle. He's like, well, I really appreciate if you drop me off. At this point, what's another 10 minutes? So I take him to the parking lot, drive to the parking lot, find his car, drop him off at his car, say our goodbyes, have a nice trip, have a nice, great day, nice meeting you, great conversation. We had a great chat. Dropped him off, left the parking lot, $3 later, dropped off, had to go put fuel in the car, dropped the car off at the car rental return, took the bus over to the terminal, had to wait for the second airport shuttle because the first one filled up because all the flight crews coming in and stay at the same hotel, so I was bumped off that shuttle. Second shuttle came around, had the 11-minute trek to the hotel, thank you very much, and finally got my night's sleep. That is another one of my interesting stories. Again, I would have a graphic showing my entire trek on that day. It's a Google map that shows all my actions. It'll show where the Cracker Barrel was. It'll show where I stop at the Flying J or whatever the hell place it was called, Pilot or the big travel center, Love's. Maybe it was a Love's. I don't know. And then our eventual travel down to DC. The entire drive was about 10 hours. I drove the entire way because I knew I wasn't going to drive us into a bridge or off a mountain. So, and the guy was like totally cool with it. He didn't try to sleep. We were engaged in conversation to keep us awake and keep us focused on stuff. So it was really a kind of a fun deal. Not the way I want to spend every birthday, but it turned out okay. Question for you: do you have any fun stories you'd like to share about your travels? Anything funny or odd that's happened to you? Please let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for being here, and I would appreciate it if you would like this video. Push the like button, which I think is right over there. And if you haven't done so yet, there's a subscribe button. If you push the subscribe button, then I'll get you as a subscriber, and that would be kind of cool. Next to the subscribe button is a bell. If you push the bell, then you will be notified when I upload videos like this masterpiece. Okay? Okay. That's it for now. Adios from Boston. I'll try to check in again tomorrow before I fly back to Dallas on Thursday. Hope your week's going well. Bye. Whoop.